training video, we're going to talk about which reality-based self-defense walking stick is best for you. We're going to look at three basic options. The first one is going to be a standard self-defense walking cane. This one's made by Cane Masters. Really simple. You can have something as simple as this, which is the dojo training cane. No frills, no bells, no whistles. You can have the Traveler, a lot more functionality. Oh, wait a minute, this isn't the Traveler. This one is the Master. This is the state-of-the-art, top-of-the-line that Cane Masters makes, has all the features, all the bells and whistles. So you can either go all in on a custom-built self-defense cane, or you can keep it simple and use a simple self-defense walking cane. We're going to talk about this one. We're going to go over the Irish Shillelagh, or a standard 36-inch walking stick. And then we're going to talk about the hiking stick, a hiking pole, or in this case, we're going to use the Japanese Cho. This one's also made by Cane Masters. That's why it has all these extra features. But we're going to talk about something this size. This is 54 inches. That has a little bit more reach. We'll talk about all these different walking sticks and which self-defense, reality-based self-defense walking stick is going to be best for you, because you're going to have to make up your own mind. And I'm just going to give you some information. You're going to figure out what you like best. I'll also tell you what I like best. I'll tell you what I've been using. I've been using these a lot. I've also used the other two a little bit lately. I'm going to start with the walking stick, or the walking cane by Cane Masters. These have a little bit wider crook for your hand, so you can practice spinning. And now the purpose of this spin is going to build callus on your hands. It's going to get your heart rate up. It's going to build some speed, power, some situational or some spatial awareness. Situational awareness is up to you. You got to pay attention. But when you do this, you're also going to develop some skill in striking. So one of the first things I want you to see with this one is that you can smash that up between his legs for self-defense, and then spin it down by turning your hand and bringing it down over his head. From here, you can also bring it across the body and back very quickly. You can bring it up at an angle and back down. You can hear when it splits the wind how much power that generates. These are made out of oak. I like to have mine in oak or hickory, a hard, solid wood. Cane Masters make whatever you ask for. But you get something like this, something simple. This reality-based self-defense walking stick, just a simple walking cane you can take anywhere and everywhere you go, because the Americans with Disabilities Act says that you can take this onto the plane, onto the train, public transportation. You can take this to the courthouse. You can take it anywhere that you can take your body. You can take the standard walking cane. And if you get a Cane Masters cane, they're nearly unbreakable. They have this wider crook and then this bevel at the end. That usually comes in handy to rip the flesh off of his face for self-defense. Maybe you're going to pull his eye out of his head, reach up, snatch his nose down, or dig it into his shoulder, pull him down while you drive that elbow up and into his face for self-defense. These are all features using the crook. The crook also acts as like a fist. So you can, from this position, bend the knees, bring it up into a punching motion really fast, striking into the chin or into the nose for self-defense, into the solar plexus, into his groin. You can then turn it in the other hand, and you can chop with it almost like you would an axe if you're breaking through a door to get to your family, to save them from the fire. In this case, it's that nasty thug punk who won't leave you alone. You told him to back up. Now you have to defend yourself. So you're using a reality-based self-defense walking stick, in this case, the Cane Masters cane. From this position, bringing it up, striking, put it in here, chop here. You can bring the backside up under his chin. You can thrust that into his throat for self-defense or into his face. You always have to ask yourself, what would you remove or destroy? One of my favorite books on self-defense is by Tim Larkin. I put the link down below. It's When Violence is the Answer. And that gives you the basic structure, strategy, principles of self-defense, the framework in which you're going to use your self-defense walking stick. Thank you, Studer, for that generous gift. Studer just did a super sticker, 20 bucks. I really appreciate that. So we're starting, as we have this conversation, which one of these is going to be best for you? Which reality-based self-defense walking stick? We're starting with the standard walking cane. So this is having the crook facing out, allows you to pull it up, snatch it over his head like we talked about, bringing it through that way. Horizontal strikes, maybe you're bringing it into his knee. Maybe you hit him in the knee first, and then you step in and turn the hand down and strike it down into his shoulder, breaking his clavicle for self-defense, maybe smashing him in the top of his head. You turn off his operating system. He falls to the ground for self-defense. Bringing it up at an angle, you can bring it again into the knee, into the arm. Maybe he's reaching out. He's got his blade. Where was I yesterday? I saw, I know you asked me before where I get these. I got mine as a gift. My wife got it on Amazon. But I saw yesterday in a store, there were a whole bunch of them. I'm trying to remember, because I was going to tell you. Maybe it was an ammo shop. Or sometime this weekend. I took my son to the range so that he can get some practice in. I use a smaller caliber so he can work on aim and control and appreciation. You learn how to appreciate a self-defense tool that can take a life. When you're younger and you grow up with a healthy appreciation for it, you're not necessarily afraid of it. I don't want my kids to be afraid. I'm having some connectivity issues here in the garage. You can use the Crook, the Shepherd canes. You can get those. Oh, I know where it was. I saw the knives at the Tractor Supply. That's where they had these Gerbers. This is the Gerber. Oh no, this is the sock. They have Gerbers and they have socks, but they have them at Tractor Supply. That's where we saw those. That's where you can also get a sturdy walking cane for self-defense. I prefer these Cane Masters canes. I put the link below if you want to see what they are. All right, so this is crook facing out. We're going to put that away for just a second because I also brought in the second type of standard walking stick that you would use, a reality-based walking stick for self-defense. This goes back years and years and years. This is the Irish Shillelagh. A lot of people will correct me and say, no, that's a blackthorn, that's a knob. I forget all the different names, but there are different names. This one's made in the town of Shillelagh by a traditional shillelagh maker. A family goes back multiple generations, but this one has this hard knot here. And then inside, there's some lead shot, which makes it extremely hard for self-defense. It's also a root that is pretty indestructible. You can do a lot of the same techniques that we just did with the walking cane. We'll talk about the differences and similarities. First thing you would do is bend the knees, and then you can bring this up, striking, smashing. Imagine breaking his jaw and his teeth come together. Maybe the tip of his tongue flies out of his mouth for self-defense. You see the blood spurt a little bit as the teeth break and crush. For self-defense, that first strike, you get the power by bending the knees and then bringing it up this way. Then you can bring this across, smashing here with the long part. You also can lead this across your forearm in case he does have that blade. Let him hit that instead of slicing your arm up so much. From there, you can throw it into the other hand. Now you have that bayonet attack, military style, or a rifle butt strike coming up into his face. You can smash him back using two hands here. You change your grip to like a push-up. You can do some of the traditional Irish Shillelagh type strikes, the Irish fighting arts. From here, you turn your hips. As you strike, bringing that through all the way, using that hard knot there to strike on the top of his head, maybe turn off his operating system for self-defense, let him fall to the ground. It's all self-defense strikes. This is how you defend yourself or fight. We call these thug stoppers, right? You're walking around, you have to take responsibility for your own self-defense. You're your own first responder. You're responsible. If you're like me, you're out with your family all the time. You're responsible. I'm responsible for my wife, my children, and myself. You're responsible for yourself at least. You now have the ability to bend the knees, strike here. You can also slide your hand down the front, picking it up almost like a sword from here, striking, always keeping it in the center line of your body, coming through. You'll generate a lot of power. Horizontal strikes, diagonal strikes. You can bring diagonal strikes up. You can bring the vertical strikes down on top of the head. So many things you can do with the reality-based self-defense walking stick we call the Irish fighting stick, the Irish Shillelagh. And it doesn't have to necessarily be this style. It can be more traditional, like European style, or one that you make your own. It can just be a 36-inch dowel rod that you pick up from the Home Depot or any other do-it-yourself shop. You sand it down, oil it up, make it really strong and durable, and it's the same length. You can do that sliding back to strike. You can slide down the front, bringing it up, put two hands on it, step in and thrust, pushing him back, striking this way for self-defense. All those basic things that you do, we did before with the Irish Shillelagh. You can also simply carry it like this. You can be walking, maybe you're walking your dog, or you're with your family, and you just happen to have your walking stick in your hand. And then from this position, you can immediately turning your palm up, get it into the other hand for a two-handed strike, or turning your palm down for two-handed strike in this push-up position. And then you're able to thin yourself. Now, the third one I wanted to show you today, because I know a lot of you ask me all the time, what about a hiking pole or a trekking pole, a hiking stick, something a little bit longer? And you can see that when you have, this is also called the Okinawan or the Japanese Joe. They're 54 inches. Usually, it doesn't have to be exactly 54 inches, be whatever you want. You can get a 48-inch dowel rod from a lot of do-it-yourself shops. Just make sure it's not poplar. You asked me the other day, can you use a clothes hanging rod? Most of those are made out of very soft woods. They're strong enough to hold the clothes, but you couldn't do a pull-up on it. You want to get a piece of wood that you could pretty much do a pull-up on once you oil it back up and you sand it down. And that means oak or hickory, something stronger. This one's hickory. This one is extremely strong. But if you were to measure it for your height, because you might be taller or shorter than me, you'd want it to come to about where your armpit starts. So that's the Japanese Joe or hiking pole. And that's so that you can have the elbow bent kind of in that 90 degrees natural position. Now that gives you some distance here to fight with. From here, you can just bring that straight up by simply turning your shoulders and your hips, thrusting into his face for self-defense. Taking a step is going to give you more power, more reach. And then, of course, you can also pull the backside up and you can keep them far, far away. Now, I would prefer this because of the distance that it creates if they were to have a bladed weapon. Even if they have like a machete, which is a lot longer than my, folder knife there, that machete is still going to be far short when it comes to this walking stick. So you're still going to have a reach advantage when you use a hiking pole or a trekking pole. So you have it in this position. You can bring it up almost like you're answering your phone. Just bring your hand to your ear. This is going to get it between you and the threat. And then you simply two-handed thrust, just like that bayonet attack or that rifle butt strike from the military. You're pushing back here. You can slide your hand down the front and then bring it back. The back hand is sliding while it's pushing. So a little bit more technique with this one. Sliding, you can bring it into the jaw, into the arm, into the hand that's carrying that weapon, down into the feet. From here, you can bring it around here. You can turn your hand down, as long as there's not a garage door open over your head, but bringing it down over the top of his head. It's a very popular strike. You can bring it here and bring it back. In fact, that's a nice warm-up that you would do similar to spinning with your cane. And these are warm-up strikes. They're not, it's not like a Japanese, the bow, where you see all the guys spinning and they're doing all the tricks and they're bringing it through the fingers and they're going over the wrist and then they're going over the head. And that stuff's all fun. That's great, but it's not very practical for self-defense. But this spin, bringing it through, is a very effective spin for self-defense. Alita, thank you for that gift. Alita just did a super sticker. But from this position, you have the same types of things. You can bring your hand up and down the front and then get it into the front hand like this. Step and thrust, pushing through the back hand, bringing it up this way, fighting with your Joe, striking two hands, boxing the sides of his head, bringing it down on top, reach up, snatch him up between his legs, thrusting through the middle. Every time you thrust with this, you're going to turn that backhand, and by turning the hand this way, you kind of lock it into place. This hand turns over and locks this way. Now, I see a lot of great comments in the chat, and I hope that we would put those in the comment section too. Just copy and paste, put them in the comment section. That way I can come back later. I'll try to read the chat, but I also like to read them in the comments so that I can reply to those. I really appreciate when you guys do that. But, as we look at which reality-based self-defense walking stick is best for you, then we bring them together and we make a comparison. And the first comparison is obvious. This is reach, right? So this is the Shillelagh, or we could say this is also the Hanbo, which is the smaller brother to the Japanese Joe, if you're keeping it in the Oriental martial arts or the Japanese Okinawan martial arts. But it's just a 36-inch option, and it might be more comfortable for you. So you'd have to ask the question, do you feel comfortable walking around with this? And I see a lot of people walking with trekking poles, and a trekking pole would suffice. You can do all the same things with good, hard, sturdy trekking pole, or just with you can have a wood pole like this. Who cares, what it's made out of? If anybody else has an opinion, let them have their opinion. You'll have your walking stick for self-defense. So you have the first question you could ask is, do you prefer the reach of this stick? And let me know in the comment section, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the Joe over the walking stick? And then we'll get to the walking cane. I'm going to come back to that, the self-defense walking cane made by Cane Masters, because I want to add a couple things in there that these simply don't have. But this one is a little bit more obvious. This one's a little less obvious. This is more of a gray man option. This one's going to stand out. You might take the approach, you don't want the gray man option. You want the option where someone says, I don't want to mess with that person because they're carrying that big stick and they're going to defend themselves. They walk confidently, their body, their chins up, shoulders back, stomachs up and in. They're walking around confidently carrying that stick, and they're not a good target for me. They're not an easy target. So that you might choose this because it does say, don't mess with me, stay away from me. Or you might have a different opinion and you want to be more gray man, gray woman option and stick with, simple, pretty walking stick, either a dowel rod that looks like you're carrying a stick or a walking stick. You can get these, made with like a brass knob at the end. I've seen them made with all kinds of different metals. Sometimes they got a skull on there. It looks nice and nasty. Sometimes they can carve it out of bone. But the point is you have something that when you strike, you're going to be able to knock their teeth down their throat for self-defense and do a little bit more damage. But you might prefer that. So put in the comment section, which do you prefer? Do you prefer the get out of my face, stay away from me, I will defend myself, thug stopping, keep your distance, reach advantage of the Joe? Or do you like the elegant gentleman, gentlewoman, gray man, gray woman option of the walking stick that you could probably take a little bit more places? Now, I have seen at the airport traveling and traveling overseas even, both this length of a walking stick, and it was just it was literally like a hiking trekking pole that someone either made or bought from a store made out of rough wood that they carried onto the plane. Went on the TSA conveyor belt, went through. On the other side, they gave it back to the person who was carrying it. In every case, it was a little bit older person. And I just confirmed with Cane Masters, yes, they do still make these on their website. If you have trouble, if you're looking for this one and you want to see what Cane Masters charges and how they make theirs, send me an email if you can't find it. But you should be able to find it with the first link below, which is on the Cane Masters site. So this is a Cane Masters Joe, which just means that it's going to be nearly indestructible and you're going to have it for a lifetime. So anyway, so did you prefer that? Do you prefer that reach, or do you like the elegance of this? The other nice thing, especially if you happen to get an Irish Shillelagh, more traditional one, they're going to be nearly indestructible. And you're going to be able to generate maximum stopping power with that in there. Also, this tip, even though it's not as big, when you stick that stick between you and the threat, and especially if you stick it into his solar plexus or into his groin or into his throat for self-defense, straight into his nose and his mouth, that's going to move him back. From here, you can then bring the back forward and strike. But coming back kind of full circle to the Cane Masters walking stick, when we talk about reality-based self-defense walking sticks and which one's best for you, I don't think you can beat Cane Masters cane, because you can take it everywhere you go. And then the HIPAA laws in this country, or your Health Information Privacy Act laws, mean that no one can question you or say, well, why do you need it? Or show me your doctor's note. In fact, Cane Masters has a little card, and if you need the information on that card and you can't find it, send me an email or put it in the comment section below, and I'll bring that card next time. We'll make a video on all the reasons why you're allowed to take this anywhere you go and what the HIPAA laws allow you to do as far as your privacy. But it's a mobility aid. So since it's a mobility aid, you can carry this into places that are non-permissive environments. I can't carry this. I carry this for two reasons. One, to open things, and I use this every single day. I've used it already today. I used it yesterday. I use this almost daily to open stuff. And the second reason I carry this for self-defense. And it's my right to carry that for self-defense. But when I went into the courthouse recently, First thing I did, because I didn't want to lose it, took it off, threw it in the console of my truck so that the security guard wouldn't take it and I wouldn't lose it. So I had to go in to, now I had happened to have the hip replaced recently, so this did go through and I'm able to walk through. And then my hip, set off the arm. I also carry one of these. I conceal carry everywhere I go. I believe in the ABC principle, always be carrying, but I can't take it. I literally cannot take it into the courthouse with me. Now, crazy things happen in the courthouse. Crazy things happen in places, big, especially like professional sporting events. Anywhere you have to go through security where they're paying attention and they're scanning and they're going through the bags and they have a metal detector, you're not carrying your concealed carry. And some people, they'll say, well, I just won't go to those places. And good for you, that's fine. But if you have to, or you want to, there are some things that I want to do even now when it's a good idea not to be around large groups, most places. So we pulled way back, but there's some places that we're still going to go to. We're still going to travel. We're still going to travel overseas. When we go overseas, and I talked to professional bodyguards recently. We were talking specifically about different countries that they might visit and what the gun laws are there and what they do when because they can't carry in these other countries. And they're all kind, I won't share their secrets, but they go back to other self-defense tools and non-permissive environments. It's very important to them. And so I know it would be important to you to learn how to defend yourself. And that's where, which the question comes, which self-defense reality-based. And I say reality-based because you can carry the bow. And, I've seen people walk with a 6-foot stick down the thing, but they're usually wearing a trench coat and all black, and they're wearing Doc Martens, and they've got maybe eyeliner on and longer, whatever the look is. And it's a little bit more conspicuous. But if that's your thing, that's your thing. I've got no problem with that. But it doesn't work for most people. But this, you can, so that would, for me, that wouldn't be reality-based. Carrying a lightsaber would be a reality-based. Those might work in the movies, but when we talk about reality-based self-defense, not talking about some of the other things that people talk about with reality-based goofiness, but just simple, like what really works, where can you carry this, is it practical? And the answer, so this is why I wanted to finish with this, and it might not be the best for you. You might say, I don't want to carry that old man, old woman looking cane. I want to carry that. Or you might be in a situation where you don't have a choice and you have to, and you're looking for a more stylish cane. Maybe you carry a metal cane, or you get like one of those polymer canes that are a little bit heavier. I prefer these just because I like the feel of wood, and it's the perfect weight for me. And I love the way I've been working with sticks for self-defense for most of my life. I just love the way sticks feel in my hand. You might consider this. This might be a better option. Or going back to the longer option, you might go for a trekking pole and say, I'd rather carry a trekking pole in practice walking for my next excursion or expedition, or just to stay fit. And I'm going to carry a trekking pole because I don't like the way the cane looks. The cane looks too old for me. So, Michael says, you can get a white oak cane, $4 at Goodwill. And I would say that's do that. Get those canes, especially white oak. White oak is going to be better than the red oak. I find that red oak breaks more easily. But whatever cane you get, especially if it's older and it's really light, that means it's kind of dried out. So you can take any cane and you can revive the wood for the most part. Sometimes they're past their prime, but for the most part, if you sand off the factory finish that comes with those, and then you soak it in a good like butcher block or cutting board oil, which is basically just mineral oil. It's edible mineral oil, but you can get mineral oil, soak it in that 2 or 3 days, and wipe it down with a nice rag, like not terry cloth, but like you would do if you were cleaning your car, like one of car cleaning rag, or old pair of underwear, an old t-shirt, something like that. And then you wipe it really well, so you burnish it a little bit, and that gives it that hard finish, and it keeps the oil inside the wood. And then all of a sudden you're going to feel that your walking cane that you got $4 at the Goodwill store now is heavier, and it's more flexible, and it's less likely to break when you bring it across the side of somebody's head for self-defense. And it's going to be a lot more effective. Yeah, Michael says the polymer cane seems too heavy. Yeah, and then they are. I've seen a bunch of different ones. I've seen aluminum canes. I don't care for the aluminum canes myself, just because, for the same reason. They're a little too heavy. And they're kind of durable, but I've also seen them bent very easily. Keith Melton, who used to own Cane Masters, and he's passed on the baton to his son, who's is running Cane Masters really well now. But he has demonstrations where Luke, his son, who's a CEO, I think, at Cane Masters now, he's holding the different canes made out of different things, and keeps showing you how you can smash those canes and break them in half. I had somebody send me these canes recently. These are knockoffs of Cane Masters canes, and they sent me these hoping I think I would do a review. I haven't been able to yet, but I can tell you that this thing is going to break. If I were to take a Cane Masters cane and smash it against these cheap knockoffs, which really aren't that inexpensive, they didn't price them cheap. They're just trying to steal their business without doing any of the work. Those things are going to break very easily. I can feel it already just in my hand. They've either used the wrong wood or the wrong process. And I mean, I just can't stand when someone builds a business and they do the best they can, and then someone comes and tries to knock it off for cheap without doing any of the work. That reminds me of a certain culture that just knocks things off, and I don't appreciate that. I love the hard work craftsmanship by somebody who puts it into something like this. Anyway, if you want to see what Cane Masters are made of, go to the first link below. So Cane Masters cane, for me, for myself, this is my best option. However, if I were to go for a hike, we are going for a hike at the end of the month. We're going to travel a little bit. We're going to go up north, go into the mountains, spend some time camping and hiking. And this is what I'm going to carry. I used to hike with my Joe every single time. So the answer for me, which reality-based self-defense walking stick is best for me, if I'm hiking, I'm taking my Joe. If I'm pumping gas, which I do too often, I'm always standing there. Actually, I have my other cane, the one that lives in my car. I get out. I usually have this. I have this, and I'm standing here holding this cane, as I'm putting the stuff in. And the simple reason is I don't want anybody to get close to my car. Like, my kids are almost always in the car with me when I'm getting gas. And especially around here, gas prices can fluctuate like a buck. You go down the street, they're a little bit less, but the neighborhood's not that great. And you sometimes see people hanging around. Panhandlers are more aggressive now. The whole world is getting crazier now. People are getting so much more desperate. They're desperate people. There are drug addicted people. That has exploded since they opened the border and invited everybody in. They've invited all those drugs in. So you have all of these social issues. You have all of these hardened criminals coming out of other cultures, where, like, Venezuela literally opened their jails, and not just Venezuela, other countries too, sent these extremely experienced organized criminals north by the tens of thousands in some cases, and they're here, right? And so you've got all that. You've got the cities breaking down. Kids coming out of school in certain places can't read or write half the time. And those are the ones who graduated, and these big school districts. These are all statistics that I'm aware of because of my job, and these are all real statistics. But what that means is there are more and more people who are lost and who are broken in our society and who really need our love and our help. However, in the meantime, we have to defend ourselves, and we have to become our own first responder, as all of the social and I firmly believe everything will go first circle. We're in a winter cycle. Everything's difficult, everything's challenging, but it's like if the alarm was going off in the house and it was the fire alarm, would you sit there and wait to burn up, or would you get up and get out of the house and call 911? You would get up and you would do something about it, I hope, right? And a lot of people see these alarm bells going off and it just makes them freeze and panic and then withdraw into the house. I would prefer for you, if you picked one of these reality-based self-defense walking sticks, give yourself a little bit more confidence if you do have to walk in some of these neighborhoods or get out and pump gas in some of these neighborhoods. This is a good way. I mean, look at the length of that. That allows me to say, hey, don't come any closer, or I can put it in this position. You get any closer, I'm going to defend myself, and then I can strike easily. I can bring this up, I can bring that across the top of his head. If it's still on the ground, one strike is a knockout if you hit the right spot. And you'll hit the right spot when you train, for the most part. A lot of it's going to be luck, but maybe you're not going to hit him with the first strike, but because you've you've practiced multiple strikes and fighting at speed, you'll be able to defend yourself when you've taken your own sense of personal responsibility and you've applied that to being your own first responder and having a little bit of training and knowing how to defend yourself with some simple stuff. All right. Yeah. And Graham says it's happening the world over. It's definitely not a phenomena in the United States. It's not just one political party. It's this global phenomena where you have open borders, drugs everywhere, violence everywhere, social systems breaking down. Law enforcement is under massive amounts of stress. Law enforcement officers in all these different countries in the West, they're leaving the career because they don't feel safe anymore. They don't feel protected. And this is not politics. These are real facts. These are things that, because of my job, again, I'm reading about, I'm learning about, I'm talking to people who know the inside, and they all say the same thing. Law enforcement, all the law enforcement friends say, if the average person knew what was happening, they would freak out. And I don't want you to freak out. I want you to stick up. I want you to learn how to defend yourself with a stick. Pick one of these three reality-based self-defense walking sticks and see which one works for you, and then get your other training. Learn how to use your elbows for self-defense. You know, a good fast one to the jaw sometimes works. Coming straight up, we'll make you videos on that. Learn how to fight with your knees if you have to. Learn situational awareness. Learn how not to be there if you're like me, and you learn how to defend yourself. Make sure you're going to the range. Make sure it's not just a flat range. Make sure you know how to keep someone from taking it off of you. Learn weapon retention. I teach a lot of classes in weapon retention. If I thought it wouldn't mess up this channel, I would teach you the weapon retention. But maybe we'll do another channel and I'll teach you all that stuff on this one, and we'll keep it separate. But anyway, you guys have been great. I have some guests coming on where we're going to talk about some of these issues and some of the things that you can do to help yourself feel more safe, since the alarm bells are ringing and we don't want to just sit in the house and wait for hopefully the fire department gets there and puts out the fire while we're sitting inside before we get burned up. And then so the answer, I mean, you can see how ridiculous that is. Obviously, you're not going to do that. You're going to get up, you're going to run outside, you're going to break a window if you have to, you're going to crawl to safety. You're going to, if the front door is too hot, you're going to go out the back door. You're going to go out a window. You're going to get your whole family out, right? You're going to do that. And I know you're going to do that, or you wouldn't be listening to me blabber my lips. You're going to do something about it. And this is just one of the options that you can do. We're going to talk about so many other options. But please, in the comment section, put below. We can make this kind of a poll later. But of these three, and if you want, come up with a fourth, fifth, sixth option that's a stick, that's a walking stick, because that's the theme of the video. Obviously, like I said, I'm a firm believer in Second Amendment rights in this country, but I know you can't carry in the UK. You can't carry in Canada now. They're taking away all the self-defense tools. Australia can't carry. New Zealand can't carry. France can't carry, right? You're not carrying in Japan. You're not carrying in most of the countries of the world. So please, if your answer is 45 ACP, that's a dumb answer, because that's not what the video is about. The video is about these sticks. Which one do you prefer? Put it in the comment section below, or another stick. I also like the shorter sticks, right? I've got these in the car, got them in the backpack. I train with you all the time on how to use these. If you want one of these, the link's below. You can see what that is. That's just the Tanbo self-defense stick. You can get one, drill a hole in it, put a thumb, make it a dongbong, the Korean style. Any stick, but I love sticks for self-defense. You guys have been awesome. Thanks again, Studer. Thanks again, Alita, for those super chats. Yeah, Studer says to Mike, practice with a buddy. G. Carlton, good to see you. Everything's going great here. It's super hot today. I was trying to beat they're power washing the house. I was waiting for them to power wash the garage door and see what the sound would be like, but I think we're next on the list. Yeah, so the short one. So Aortiz 2004, I think, says I was expecting the short one. The more I train with these, the more I like them. And I've been training with these. I've been training with elbows. I've been chopping up my elbows at the gym on the bag there. So I'm getting back into my strikes, palm strikes, elbow strikes. And this one makes me think this is a short range weapon, which is what the elbows are, where a punch is more of a long range, which is what these are. So I highly suggest learning how to fight with any stick, because you never know. You might not be able to find a long stick, or you might not have a long stick with you, but there might be a shorter version of a self-defense stick that you can pick up. And if you learn how to fight with a tonbo, then you'll know how to defend yourself with that. Philly Fathead says, sorry I missed you. I'm glad you made it to the end. Graham, again, thanks for your comments. Thanks for everybody for these comments. Again, please, if you would, put them in the comment section. Let's make this a conversation between us. And I've been seeing some crazy things lately, just in the world. Not on, and I'm not talking about like news reports, right? I'm not talking about podcasts, because you can see crazy things on podcasts. I'm talking about with my eyeballs, driving down the street. I went over, my son was at a friend's house. They live on an island, which is, there are a lot of islands around here because we're on the coast. And on the way there, there's a park, which used to be this beautiful park with yachts and, kids swimming on one side with the beach and the sand. And now it is full of zombies, just people who sadly are addicted to drugs, and they're taking these drugs where the flesh is rotting and they're out of their mind, and they're desperate people. And they're not all dangerous, and they need our love and they need our prayers, and I'm all about that. However, there are among them people who will hurt you and hurt your family because they feel like they have no other option, and that's their choice. And I'm not agreeing with their choice at all. But I am saying you also have the choice to defend yourself, and so learn, whether it's learning how to defend yourself with sticks, learning how to defend yourself with other tools, or if you're like me and you believe in carrying, if you can. And like I said, most places in the world you can't carry, so. And I'll probably never. I'm not a second. I believe in the Second Amendment, but I'm not making those videos because it's just not. It's not something that I think I need to do. There are plenty of other people that do that, but it is something that I do daily for my job and for the protection of my family. And so I do suggest that if that's available to you. But if it is, please get training. But don't just get the target training practice. And I saw it when we were at the range. This range was packed. That's another sign to me that people are freaking out. People are worried. People are nervous. You're nervous. I'm nervous. What's happening in the world? Why aren't the authorities doing anything about it? Seemingly, maybe they are behind the scenes. We just don't know. But in the meantime, how are we going to defend ourselves? What are we going to do? And so the range is packed. And this is a massive range. It's a public range that I go to. It's outside. It's beautiful. They've got skeet shooting, and they've got like all these different places. But they have multiple rifle ranges and then multiple pistol ranges. All the pistol lanes were taken up. In fact, my son and I got done early. We let two other young men come in who had been waiting for a while patiently for their turn to shoot paper, which I find very non-fun anymore. I love to shoot steel. I love to move. I like to get the heart rate up. I like to challenge myself. I like to go strong hand, weak hand. I like to run. I like to move. I like to maneuver, because I don't think that, it's just going to be, it might be. And then your target practice is important, but learn the mental part of it. That's where Tim Miller comes in. Tim Miller is going to be the next guest that I bring on again. Tim Miller, Marine colonel, retired, 26 years in the Marine Corps, tanker. Those of you who know tankers, that personality, Secret Service, cop, Homeland Security. After 9/11, he was on the Homeland Security Task Force. This guy is so well connected, and he has the right mentality when it comes to taking personal responsibility. And a big part of what Tim Miller is training is the mental part. How do you prepare your mind for the fight? Because you can learn how to do palm strikes and elbow strikes. You can learn how to throw a good couple punches and get move to the right or left. You can get some jujitsu and learn how to sprawl, keep someone from taking you down. You can learn how to wrap somebody up. You learn how to take them down. But if you don't have, and that's where like martial arts training is good, because it does give you pieces of that mental training, but there should also be self-defense specific training. And that's where Tim Larkin's book comes in. Tim Larkin's link is in the description below, When Violence is the Answer. And if you haven't read that book, that's the Bible for self-defense. That's where you start. That gives you the principles, and that teaches you. It doesn't matter how fit you are or unfit, you can defend yourself. It doesn't matter how big or small you are, you can defend yourself when you switch from techniques to principles. First principle is always situational awareness. Pay attention, get off your phone, stick the phone in your pocket, stick it in the bag. Please stop driving and doing this. I can't tell you how many people You know it. You see it all the time. You do it. I do it. I don't do it very much, but we all have that. You know, we hear the ding, or we have to send a message. We think, or we have to look at the map, or whatever. But try to discipline yourself. Take some personal responsibility, right? And get off the phone at the important time, especially when you're walking in a new place or you're walking late at night to the car. If you go on date nights like I do with my wife from time to time, and hopefully, they're fun. Sometimes they're fun, sometimes they're working events, where we have to figure things out. But when you go on a date night, or you're on a date, or you're just out to eat, pay attention before you leave the restaurant. Pay attention before you get out of the car to the restaurant. Look around and see, because a lot of these things are happening in parking lots. They're happening on the way to a restaurant. They're happening when you come out of a restaurant. And especially if you have a couple of drinks and you come out of the restaurant, your faculties are not sharp. You're not going to be able to pay attention as well. So make sure you're off your phone. Make sure you have, and when you go in the restaurant, you look for the exits. You say if something happens. We go to church every Sunday, and we change from churches from time to time. We belong in a church that has multiple locations. So we might be at a big church, we might be at a small church. We might go to another church because we're not happy over here. That's an inside joke. But for whatever reason, so we're at the different churches. Different churches have different levels of security. One of the churches we go to, packed every weekend, and there's zero security. They have a cop who's sitting in his car staring at his computer the whole time. You've seen that. And he has zero situational awareness. It happened like in Joe Osteen's church when they had that shooting recently from that bizarre incident with the guy came in, man, woman, whatever he was. And he walked right by the cop, and the cop's on his phone. Cops could have stopped him at the door, could have stopped people from getting shot. Cops on his phone. He's making $96 an hour or whatever it was over it. And I'm not picking on cops because I love cops and I want them to be safe, and they're my brothers and sisters. But we all do it. We get stuck in the wrong thing. You have to shift your mind from waiting for somebody else to keep you safe and take responsibility for your own security. And that means situational awareness. Number two, getting into a better position. If somebody is approaching you, can you move? Can you run, hide? Can you get out of there? Remember they always said run, hide, fight. I've been talking to more and more professionals who say, no, we're done with this run, hide, fight. Let's start talking about how to fight. Prepare yourself to fight. How do you put yourself in a position to fight? Because if you're hiding, you're not in a position to fight. And and there's so many cases now in these active shootings where these guys come in and everybody's just sitting down like that and they just walk along the line and they take them all out. Where if instead just a couple people would have just stepped in and smashed that guy in his face and taken him out, yeah, there may have been injuries, but there would be far fewer casualties. So just, and so you have to come up with what's the best plan for you. But the point is, reading a book like Tim Larkin's When Violence is the Answer, and again, the link is in the description, that gives you a starting point. That starts to shift your mindset. And when you do that, you start to take responsibility for your own protection. It brings a sense of calm for most people. My experience has been working with you for all these years is that when you're nervous, when you're afraid, when you haven't taken responsibility for your own safety and security, and you're just seeing what's happening in the world and you're hearing all the reports and you're consuming it constantly, and YouTube and Facebook and all those Instagram, they're going to feed you more of that garbage. You read one news story about an active shooting, you're going to get hundreds. You read one story about, a 92-year-old woman getting smashed in the face by some punk thug in New York City who has been in the revolving door of the justice system there, so he's never faced accountability. That makes me mad. When that happens, then you're going to get all those stories. And there's so many of them. And then you start to think, oh my gosh, the whole world is falling apart. But you read one book like Tim Larkin's When Violence is the Answer, you start to change your mindset from a victim to a protector. And you become responsible for your own self-defense. And you realize it doesn't matter how big you are, how small you are, how old, how young, how capable, incapable, what your physical limitations are because of life, because of illness, because of weaknesses. You have the tools you need now without any training to defend yourself when you shift from techniques to principles. And the principles are, after situational awareness, getting a better position, taking a breath, asking yourself, what can I remove or destroy? His ability to see and breathe. And when you think about it, my nose is going to break under the same amount of pressure as your nose. My eyes are going to pop out of my head under the same amount, and it's not very much. You can pop my eyes out of my head If I'm coming after you, trying to hurt you, you can stick your thumb in my throat and crush my windpipe. You can stick your elbow into my throat and crush my windpipe, and I'm done. And it doesn't matter. I can outweigh you by 150 pounds. I can spend hours in the gym lifting heavy weights. None of that matters, right? You can be some young punk thug, but if you learn how to take advantage of violence, using violence to stop violence, and that's what his book is all about. That's why it's When Violence is the Answer. And you shift your mind into that, it's liberating, but it starts to give you the idea, it's not as scary out there if you are paying attention. And then you're going to start doing the whole Jason Bourne thing in your head where you picture yourself like Jason Bourne or Liam Neeson in that movie Taken, where he does all these nasty things to people. And you're going to picture are the Equalizer, maybe you're Denzel Washington. And you start to, because your brain will start to unravel and picture things. Okay, if this guy comes any closer and he pulls out a knife or he does whatever the scenario is, then your mind's going to say, okay, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to take away his ability to see or breathe or stand. I'm going to strike him here or strike him here, or I'm going to stick my keys into his skin in his face and rip it off. And so you start to get an idea in your head, and then that changes the whole scenario. You're no longer picturing yourself as just being beaten by some young punk thug. And then you realize, oh, he's just a nice kid from the neighborhood or whatever it is. He's just tired of coming off of work. He's just a worker, coming in to get, some water and some chips and go back to work. And there you were, a month ago, you would have been shaking like a leaf, wondering if he's going to hurt you. And now you realize, it's just another person. And then you'll start to see the real patterns because you read the book. You'll see the real patterns where you need to be paying more attention and you need to be more prepared. But in either case, you're taking that personal responsibility and you're no longer a victim. And that's why I get so perturbed. People in the comment section will say, hey, you can't teach these old people. You can't teach if someone is 87 or if an old lady or if an old man, this and that, and you teach them that, you're going to get them hurt. And it's like, no, if they have the principles of self-defense, it doesn't matter the age, doesn't matter the physical ability level. None of that matters. What matters is the principles of self-defense. Did you read the book? It's in there. When Violence is the Answer. Go get the book. If you read it and you don't agree with me, you think I'm absolutely wrong, send me a note. I'll send you whatever it costs. I don't even know what they cost. I'll send you a refund. It's not even my book. I've never gotten a penny from him. I've never even talked to Tim Larkin. Never talked to him. Never met him. But I'm a big fan, and that's why I promote his book all the time. But if you read it and you don't get the value out of it, let me know. I'll send you a refund. I'll Venmo you or Zelle you or whatever it is, PayPal you, because it didn't work for you or whatever. But when you read it, it liberates you and it gives you the idea that, you don't have to be the victim. Anyway, I digress. I digressed for a long time, but I want to finish once again with a request from you, asking you as a favor to me and the channel and for all of us, which one do you prefer? Do you like the walking stick? Are you a hiking stick person? Are you a cane person? Or are you like me, where it depends on where I'm going, I'm going to pick one of the three, and I'm going to understand what I can do with each one. And it's a lot. There's so much you can do. Keep yourself safe when you choose which reality-based self-defense walking stick is best for you. And please put that in. Yeah, Graham says it's a very good book, easy to read. He's gifted a number to others. I have too. I've gifted that book almost more than any other book. It's such a great book. Anyway, you guys have been awesome. Yeah, so Jacqueline, Graham, you both say walking stick. Please put that in the comment section so that we can start a conversation in the comment section. It helps the algorithm. It helps the channel grow. But you guys just being here makes it grow too. And I really, really appreciate that. Yeah, Aortis says mostly the walking cane. I probably use this the most too. But the sticks, the long sticks, are still my favorite. Steve Borg Resistance says sword cane. That's definitely a real thing. I don't have any. I had one before. My problem with the sword canes are most of them are cheaply made. And if you pull it out fast, it's like a cheap katana. You can buy katanas anywhere. That's a Japanese sword. And you pull them out correctly with the right kind of force you're supposed to. Some of them will break right at the hilt and go flying sideways and almost hit somebody. True story. So you got to watch those. They're just not, I don't like them because they're not well made. I'm sure there are some that are well made. Devin says walking stick. Please put that in the comment section, Devin. Appreciate you guys, and I will see you in a little bit. Thank you.